What's up, and welcome to Ladder Decks. Today I'm going to be discussing Zoolock, another established deck that's been around for quite a while. Before we get into the the meat of everything, the specific cards and deck list and things, let's talk about Zoolock in general first. So what is Zoo? Zoo is a term that comes from Magic the Gathering, where there was a deck that had a lot of low-cost, low attack minions in it, but they synergized well with each other. And a lot of these minions were like animals and shit, so thus the term zoo. But it carried over into Hearthstone for much the same reason, in that the deck has a lot of low-cost, low-powered minions that synergize well with each other. And because of that, a lot of people like to think that Zoo is an aggro deck. But in reality, it doesn't play quite like an aggro deck. It plays more like a mid-range deck, in that for a mid-range deck, you typically play powerful minions on curve. So minions that aren't gonna just die quickly, but you use most of your mana to play like 1 or 2 solid minions a turn. You know, in the early game, usually it's like 1 a turn. And then you make efficient trades on the board, and you gain incremental advantage over time. And so towards the late game, you start having more board presence and more card advantage than your opponent because of this. Zoo plays out in that you want to make trades on the board. You want board control with Zoo. It's not an aggro deck where you just play the stuff and you hit face all the time. You want to make efficient trades on the board when and where you can. And most of the time in the early game you can, and even in the mid game you can. More towards the late game, you want to just hit face and take them out. So let's get into the deck list here. Oh wait, before we get into the deck list, let's talk about some of the cards that Zoo lost coming into the new expansion, Whispers of the Old Gods. So first up is Haunted Creeper. Haunted Creeper is a 2-cost, 1 mana, or 2 mana, 1 attack, 2 power minion that has a death rattle, summon 2 1/1 spiders. This is a great card for Zoo. It was super annoying in just about any deck it's ever in. It's super annoying because you never really knew what to do with it. It was like, do I kill it now or do I just leave it? I don't know. So it was a great, really annoying card that once it died, it spawned 2 more minions. So the way Zoo plays out, that's a great card. And get great value out of it. So we lost that. The next card Zoo lost was Nerubian Egg, which was another really annoying, fun card. Well, fun for Zoo, annoying for everybody else. So it's a 2 mana 0/2 minion that has death rattle of summon a 4/4 Nerubian. And this is another card. This is a card not as good as probably Haunted Creeper was in Zoo, but it was easily buffed. Just because of all the other cards that Zoo utilizes, you could buff this card and easily get trades with this and bring out the 4/4 egg very quickly. Even like on turn 2, you could, if you had the coin, you could coin out Nerubian Egg, right? And then on turn 2, you play Power Overwhelming on it. You could kill one of their minions or go face for 4 damage, and then you'd have a 4/4 on turn 3 to play, right? Or play with, not play. It's already on the board. So the other card that Zoo lost, which is probably the biggest card for it to lose, was Implosion. It's a 4 mana spell that deals 2 to 4 damage to a minion, and for each damage dealt, you summon a 1/1 imp. This is the only spell damage that Zoo ran, so it is kind of a big loss in that now Zoo doesn't have as efficient a way of removing or dealing damage to bigger minions and getting like a lot of value out of it. This card combined with Knife Juggler was a nightmare for sure for people, because you could deal 2 to 4 damage to a creature, and then each imp would deal 1 more damage through the Knife Juggler. So yeah, I'm not gonna go on too much more about that. But so those are the cards that Zoo has lost. Not too much really. So most of Zoo is still very much intact and very much viable. There is one more card, and I sort of mentioned it just now, that Zoo didn't lose, but it got nerfed, and that's Knife Juggler. So Knife Juggler went from 3 attack to 2 attack. Everything else is the same though, and this is why I didn't dust all my Knife Jugglers and get full value out of them. I dusted the one extra I had and the golden one I had, because 800 dust is just, well, 800 dust. So I knew these cards were still going to be viable, especially in Zoo, so I kept 2 of them. And they absolutely are. They're still just as good as they were, really. Granted, the 3 attack or the 2 attack doesn't trade up as well as the 3 attack did, but the effect is really what you're playing Knife Juggler for. So Knife Juggler is still a very, very solid card in Zoo. Okay, so here's the deck list that I've been running. The most solid deck list I've ran anyway so far of Zoo after the Old Gods expansion. Now let's talk about some of the new cards that are in this list. Start with, there's Forbidden Ritual. This is from the Old Gods set. It's a 0-cost spell that spends all your mana and you summon that many 1/1 tentacles. Now, initially when I played this card, I actually completely misunderstood it and I played it incorrectly, and it was really sad. So, I'm sure everybody by now understands how it works, and maybe everybody understood how it worked to begin with, but from my understanding is, it says spend all your mana, summon that many 1/1 tentacles. So I thought you had to spend all of your mana on that turn before this card would work. And what that meant in my head was play things out of your hand until you had no mana, and then you would play this card, and then it would summon that many 1/1 tentacles. And that would be actually super OP if that was the case. It's not. So it's not as good as I originally thought it was gonna be. And I've had sort of mixed results with this card. And a lot of times it winds up being a dead card in my hand, and I just don't ever play it. So I'm actually thinking about cutting one of them out of my deck. It can still be a good card, flexible, you know, if your board just got wiped and you want to board again next turn, just play this card and you instantly have a board. It's better in combination with some of the other cards, but it's still a decent card for sure. I'm not as hyped about it as I was originally, but that's my fault. So that's one of the new cards. The next new card is Possessed Villager. Now this card is a 1/1 for 1, and it has a death rattle of summon a 1/1 Shadow Beast, which is neither a beast nor a demon, which you would think it would be. Anyway, so initially this looks like a sort of different version of Argent Squire, right? It's not though, and for Zoo it's actually better, I think, because of summoning a minion. It synergizes with Knife Juggler really well, and it synergizes with the next new card, Darkshire Councilman. And as you can see, this is a 3-mana 1/5, which are kind of shit stats, but after you summon a minion, you gain +1 attack. So, you know, with the Possessed Villager, it dies, and then summons the 1/1 Shadow Beast. If you have Darkshire Councilman out, then, you know, Darkshire Councilman gets a buff. And if you have Knife Juggler out as well, Darkshire gets a buff and a knife gets thrown. So there's a lot of good synergies there. So yeah, Darkshire Councilman is a card that a lot of the bigger streamers thought was kind of a meh card to begin with, you know, before the set was released, and I didn't think so. I thought it was going to be a really good card. I thought it was definitely going to be an absolute slot in Zoo, and it is in most lists. Some lists only run 1, but it's definitely in Zoo. Like, this is a made for Zoo card. It's definitely kind of bad tempo, right, to play on 3, but once you get it out and once you get it going, like, your opponent they have to deal with it. They have to do something about it, because it'll snowball very quickly and get out of control, and it'll destroy them if they don't. The fact that it has 5 health really helps, because most classes don't have 5 damage in a card. You know, they have to spend a card and some extra mana for like a ping from their hero power, or they have to run a minion into it or something. They have to use multiple resources to get rid of it, which is really, really nice. Otherwise, if it was like 4 health, it would be much easier to get rid of. and definitely not as powerful of a card. And so for a 3-mana card that forces your opponent to get rid of it with multiple resources, I mean, it's really good value for you. Those are the new cards that are staples in the deck now, I believe. There's another new card that I've got in this list that I'm not 100% sure about. It's Spawn of N'Zoth. I've seen it run in other lists, so I decided to give it a try, and it's a 3-mana 2/2 that gives your minions +1/+1 as a death rattle effect. So once it dies, your whole board, whatever's on your board, gets buffed by +1/+1. So the stats are shit, but you're not really playing for tempo so much. You're playing for board control mostly in Zoo. So the card kind of works to that end, but a lot of times I feel like there's just better things to play. So it winds up just sitting in my hand and not doing a lot. And then when I can play it, are times when I don't have a lot of stuff on the board for it to work very well. So I'm not really sure about this card, and I might cut it. But you know, it's a possibility. So some other cards I want to talk about. Another card that is sort of creeped in, maybe not creeped in, but has been put in to Zoo is Flame Juggler. It's an okay card. It's whatever. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just kind of meh. It's a card to fill a slot, I guess. It's probably, and I've seen it in other decks too. It's kind of just become the, I don't want to say the new Knife Juggler, but it's kind of taken that slot where it's like it's the best 2 we have right now. So it is what it is. I want to talk about Doomguard though for a minute. Doomguard is the 5-mana 5/7 with charge, and where you have to discard 2 random cards in your hand. A lot of lists run 2 Doomguards in Zoo, and I've run those lists too. But I find that inevitably I always have both Doomguards sitting in my hand fairly early on in the game, and they don't do anything for a long time, and that annoys the shit out of me because, I mean, most likely if I play one, I'm losing the other. So on my list, I've gone to 1 Doomguard and a Leroy Jenkins for more burst damage. And that most of the time I use Doomguards anyway isn't for playing and hitting into a minion. It's for face damage most of the time, at least of how I play it. So to that end, Leroy works great because that's what you're using Leroy for. You're not using Leroy to trade, you're using it for a burst damage. And I think Leroy works better for that. Well, it does work better for that. It's not just I think, because you don't have to discard cards, so you can combo Leroy with Power Overwhelming very easily, whereas Doomguard is much harder to do since it discards cards in your hand randomly, and you have to kind of hope and pray for RNG, right, to be on your side when you do that. But whereas Leroy, you just play Leroy, play Power Overwhelming, and there's 10 damage in your hand that you can count on. So I really like Leroy Jenkins in Zoo. And I've seen Leroy coming out in a lot more decks now since Whispers have come out. So the other card I kind of wanted to discuss a little bit is Sea Giant. It's a card that comes in and out a little bit. It's just a big fatty, you know, that you can kind of cheat out with all the board state being what it is with all your minions and all your opponent's minions. Some lists have run 2. In the past, I've run 2. This list only runs 1. And it's just a big fatty to get on the board. So the overall game plan with Zoolock is you want to mulligan for your early game stuff. You want to get your Flame Imps, your Dark Peddlers, your Possessed Villagers in your hand to begin with. If you're going on, if you have the coin, I'll keep Imp Gang Boss in my hand and coin that out on 2 a lot of times because Imp Gang Boss is so powerful. But you know, typically you want to just play out your cards sort of on curve to begin with, and then just however you can get the most value out of them. And you want to trade on the board. Like you're not going face with this deck, especially in the early game. You just want to make good efficient trades on the board. You want to use, you know, the token creatures that you get from the various things like Imp Gang Boss and your Forbidden Rituals and things. You want to use those to trade into things and try and get good value from your Power Overwhelmings for, you know, larger minions that you have to remove. If you're towards the min game, if your opponent is really just playing like single large minions, there's an argument to be made that you should probably just start going face, because you don't want to trade your whole, if you have to trade your whole board into one thing, it's not worth it. You want to keep your board and push your opponent to have an answer for your entire board, as opposed to just getting rid of your board to get rid of one minion, because his one minion can only trade into one of your minions anyway, and it doesn't really matter at that point, because if he's just trading like that, then you're just going to overwhelm him in the long run, and really the short run, because it doesn't take that long to do with this deck. And another thing about Zoo is you have to get comfortable with using your hero power. Like, don't worry about your health. You need to, I mean, for the most part, but use it as a resource. That's how this deck works, because you can play a lot of low-cost minions very quickly onto the board, and you'll lose your hand. And if you don't replenish your hand with using your hero power, you will lose the game. So be sure to utilize your health as a resource and not think of it as something you need to protect. So towards the mid game, you can start, hitting face where you can, getting some damage in and things like that. But continually making trades that are efficient and valuable. Don't make bad trades, obviously. If you're forced to make a bad trade, then go face, So towards the late game, you just want to keep doing the same things, except now you really want to start paying attention to their health total, because you have a lot of burst damage in these decks, and you want to always keep track of what you have in your hand as far as burst damage. So, like, say if you have a Leroy and a Power Overwhelming, you've got 10 damage in your hand, guaranteed, as long as they don't have a taunt out. And then if you don't have the Power Overwhelmings, or you can always draw into things, So keep in mind what you have left in your deck that you can draw into, so you can hit your hero power and be mostly assured that you're going to draw into something that'll give you extra damage, and a lot of times you're looking for only like 2 to 3 damage, sometimes more, but a lot of times you're not looking for that much more damage to get into your hand to be able to close the game out. So that's what you're looking to do late game, is to probably stop making trades and look at their health total every turn and see what you have available as far as damage to do from your board and from your hand. So that's Zoo in a nutshell. If you haven't tried it, please do. It's a very cheap deck to make. You don't need the legendaries in this to make this work. You can you don't even need the Sea Giant, really. You can substitute Sea Giant with some other big thing. Even something like Stormwind Champion works well enough. Give it a try if you haven't tried it out. I've got some games you can check out to see the gameplay and see how it works. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, and we'll see you in the next one. Later.
Gul'dan versus Gul'dan.
Your soul shall be mine. I am your nightmare.
I don't think I want that right now. So what does that mean? Not really sure what that means.
Put this apple on your head.
I'm gonna find out what it means. Because I don't know if he's playing Zoo or if he's playing some kind of Reno lock Cthulhu bullshit. And I still don't know, so there's that. God.
Hey, catch!
Damn you. Stupid juggler.
Put this apple on your head.
Always does that shit to me. I think I've played this.
Buying or selling.
Asshole juggler. I fucking hate you. Why do you gotta suck so much, juggler?
Stop yelling!
Hmm. I don't give a shit.
Stop yelling!
Deal.
Hey, catch!
This juggler's been sucking.
My shield for Argus!
God damn it. The fuck is my shield for Argus?
Fight, maggot.
Dick. Really? Bullshit. Oh, there it is now. After it doesn't even fucking matter. It's frustrating. Hmm.
So many possibilities. Deal.
One shot, one.
That's fine. I care not. I care not. I guess the direwolf doesn't matter right now, does it? So it actually makes more sense to play the juggler right now. Well, I should probably kill this off first, though. That seems pretty good. I think he's pretty fucked.
This time.
So do you have any,
Versus Thrall!
Yeah, but it seems like a lot of people are playing Rogue so
Soul
far,
shall be mine.
and it's annoying. So are there any cool decks that were submitted that you like really like, or are they all just kind of meh? I want these power overwhelmings right now.
I'll get right on it.
Why do you call?
Hmm.
Buying or selling? Did you bring some fish?
Not so bad. Not so bad at all. Alright.
Deal.
Don't let me down here. Don't let me down, juggler. Juggle good. Fucking jugglers hate
Do
me.
you need a blessing?
As you command.
Necessary?
Lightning storm. Board gone. Lightning storm makes me sad. Okay, no lightning storm yet. That's good. Very good, very good. Probably should just do that.
Why do you fall?
More training?
Almost out of time.
God damn it. Could have been worse. Could have been worse.
I'll get right on it.
Toasty. As you command.
See, I don't know if you heard me, Sig, but I was wondering if any of those decks you that were submitted to you were any good or fun or cool at all, or if they're all just kind of meh.
Sever my wrath. As you command. Toasty.
Necessary?
Oh, that's cool, man. No problem. Totally feel free to nerd out on Harry Potter. It's fine.
I wonder.
For the crusade!
GG.
Will you win this one?
So tired of
Versus Thrall!
being at 12. I was at 11, then
For
just
Doomhammer.
everything went to hell.
Your soul shall be mine.
Alright, I'm gonna keep this hand. I deal with this fucking bastard shaman deck. I saw a cool shaman list. It's like a control combo shaman. Probably not super great, but you know, I want to try it out anyway.
I'll get right on it.
has Halazeal in it, and
It's getting hot in here.
like Leroy and Faceless Manipulator.
Did you bring some fish? Buying or selling?
Do we want a Flame Imp or do we want another? This villager might be better.
Toasty!
Get it out!
Did you bring some fish?
Sadness.
Deal.
Zoo's weird. Because I never know what I'm going to do exactly. It just sort of depends on what cards I draw. Kind of what the board state is. Like, I mean, it can always change, so
I wonder.
I don't know. I'd like to keep the Forbidden Rituals to get value out of them, to combo them with, you know, like Knife Juggler or Darkshire Councilman or something like that, you know? Lame. Okay. Not that great. I could get the Sea Giant out. But probably gets hexed, right?
I wonder.
Just do it anyway.
Get it out! Get it out!
Almost out of line.
I mean, it probably gets hexed or removed in some stupid way.
My shield for Argus!
Oh, okay. I don't think that was that good.
My shield for Argus!
That's incredible.
Seems okay.
It's getting hot in here.
That was weird.
That's incredible.
Why didn't this get the buff? Huh. Wonder why that didn't get the buff. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 13. So let's tap though. Okay, so we just do this. And we can just trade one of these off, it's fine.
You win this one.
Boom! Level 54 Warlock. Got another Grimscale Oracle. Cool.